All right, we're back here for part one of the actual mix down. This is going to be a lot of fun, and there's a couple of cool little principles that I kind of tipped off in the previous video that we're going to be able to cover. First of all, before we get to the actual mix, a really great technique that I want to make sure everyone's hip to is first looking at your mixer. And if you have any automation on any of these volume faders, like maybe I did here on my breaks track, I had some volume automation here for the drum fill. It makes a lot of sense to free up that fader. You don't want to ditch the automation because that was a cool thing you did. You can just grab the track and hit Command G, and that'll put it into another essentially new mix fader. Then you can fold it up and even rename it with Command R, and now you have a new volume control for that overall track, and it's still preserving the volume automation. So there's a lot of workarounds for getting around having mixer automation for volume, but that's probably the best one because that's just going to streamline it, allow you to still have your automation. You can still edit your automation. It's all still there. You can see I've got a nice little volume pump on my drum fill. That's cool. So I like that. I don't want to ditch that. So just hit Command G and group it into another track, group it into a bus, and then fold it up. So that's pretty tight. That's a good tip. The other thing that's worth mentioning is, I guess the next step, once you've got everything all folded up into groups, is just to go through your mixer and mute everything. So mute all your buses. So basically you're not going to be able to hear anything. And look here, I've got a quick automation here on that track. Now this is my original bass track. I'm just going to go ahead and group that so I can mute it. Same deal. We're going to mute everything except for the kick. Like here, I've got my drum kits here. A really, really awesome thing you can do now is you can either group that or you could just make a separate track just for your kick drum. This is a really kind of cool classic move for, especially for music that's kick drum heavy, like techno or house or anything that's like real bass heavy. You can make a track just for your kick. And then what you can do is open up the drum kit, mute that kick drum in the mixer, and then right in here, hit Option Command I and take audio from your kit, kick drum. Now, once you do this, it's probably best to do this. We'll take it post effects and then put it on input monitor mode. Now we can just move this guy over here. We've got a separate track now just for our kick drum. Cool thing about that is, now when the kick drum hits, it's not compressing all the other drums in the kit. So you have a separate compressor and distortion track for all your drums separate from the kick. But also this is nice and convenient because you can just show just the kick drum and only have your kick in the mix now. Let's go right to the section where the drop is. Now I've just got a nice kick drum track. The trick with doing this in this case is that if you did fine tune your compression and dynamics, you're going to want to go back and do that. So I can look at this drum group, take a look at what's going on in my kit, and the compressor is working a lot less hard. Now in this case, I don't really have any major compression going on the drums, so I should be just fine. I'm going to rename this group kit, fold it up, and then I'm going to actually go to that kick drum and give it a little compression. If I want a little more boom on that kick, I can turn this up. Decide how much of that transient I want in there. That's cool. Nice, huh? So once you've got that kick on its own track, a really cool kind of classic technique here is just to adjust the kick drum. So put your master volume over here all the way up to 0, and then adjust that kick drum until the master fader is peaking at around -10. This isn't a hard and fast rule, but this is a technique that I've learned for years and I think is really great. So adjust that kick drum here until, you have to reset those guys again, until it's at around -10. -8, -9. I'm going to go down just a tiny bit more, and here's where I can click and just shift click down to go down maybe another dB. Reset it. -9.5, that's great. So now what we're going to do is once we've got the kick at -10, we're going to essentially use that as like a mathematical tight placeholder to build our whole mix around. With our master channel at -0, and our kick drum at -10, we should be able to just use our ears and like build this pyramid all around the kick drum, making sure that the kick is like the nice and clear, loudest part. But before we start building the whole pyramid, there's one other cool little step I want to mention. Got that kick drum up, and now this is one of the rare stages in the mix where you're going to want to turn things up a little louder on your control room or on your headphones. I'm going to crank my headphones up a little, and we're going to go to my bass track, and I'm going to turn this down, unmute it, and without looking at the meters at all, I'm just going to bring this up to taste. There you go. So now I've brought that kick drum up to taste. I've kind of just nestled it right in there with the kick. If I had a sub bass, I'd want to do the sub bass first. But basically just using your ears, get the kick and the bass to fit just right. So by doing that, your meter should still over here be right around 10, especially -10, especially if you had a nice side chain on there, which we do. And that's kind of the beginning for the pyramid. So the pyramid's going to start up the middle and be mono for the most part. Kick and bass are usually right up the middle for the most part, at least the low end. And that's kind of the start for your mix pyramid, just doing that volume of the bass to taste around the kick that's at -10 with everything else muted. So that's a good start for building the pyramid, and we'll move on to the other sounds in the pyramid next.